She humiliated the cleaner in front of everyone, not knowing the nobody she just insulted actually owned the entire company. What happened next will shock you and prove why kindness is the most expensive currency in the world. The dirty mop water hits her face with such force that droplets splatter across the marble floor, the same floor she's been scrubbing for the past 3 hours. Laughter erupts around her, sharp and cruel, echoing off the glass walls of the 20th floor corridor. The woman who threw it, designer heels clicking against tile, doesn't even bother to hide her smirk as she tosses her perfectly styled hair over one shoulder and walks away, leaving wet footprints in her wake. The cleaner stands there, water dripping from her worn uniform, her weathered hands trembling slightly as she reaches for the rag tucked into her apron. But here's what nobody in that gleaming corporate hallway knows, what not a single person rushing past her with their expensive coffee and their dismissive glances could possibly imagine. This woman owns every single inch of the building they're standing in. Her name is Eleanor Cole, though the employee badge clipped to her cleaning uniform reads Ellen. And 3 weeks ago, she stood in a completely different uniform, Chanel suit, Italian leather, diamonds that cost more than most people's cars, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse office while her son paced behind her like a caged animal. He'd just fired his 4th personal assistant in 2 months, not because they were incompetent, but because he'd caught her taking photos of his credit cards. The one before that had sold stories to tabloids. The one before that had tried to drug his drink at a charity gala. 28 years old, brilliant beyond measure, heir to a business empire worth billions, and Daniel Cole couldn't find a single person who wanted him for anything other than what he could give them. She'd watched her son's shoulders slump as he'd said the words that broke her heart. Everyone wants my money, not me. I'd rather be alone. And in that moment, Eleanor Cole made a decision that would have made her late husband think she'd lost her mind. She was going undercover. Not with private investigators or background checks or any of the tools her wealth could buy. No, she was going to do something far more revealing. She was going to become invisible. Because Eleanor had learned something in her 62 years on this earth, something her own mother had taught her when she was just a girl growing up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. You want to know someone's true character, watch how they treat the people they think don't matter. The waiters, the janitors, the cleaners, the people they believe can't do anything for them or to them. So she'd chosen one of Daniel's mid-level companies, a marketing division in the coal industry's empire, submitted an application under a fake name, sat through an interview where the HR manager barely looked at her, and got hired on the spot because, as the woman had said with barely concealed disdain, "It's just cleaning. Anyone can do it." 3 days of training, a uniform that smelled like industrial detergent, and Eleanor Cole disappeared into the invisible workforce of her own building. The first day she'd arrived at dawn, stepping off a public bus for the first time in 40 years, mop bucket in hand, watching the sunrise paint the steel and glass tower gold. The building her husband had designed, the company her family had built from nothing. And she walked through the employee entrance in the back, the one she'd never even known existed, past the loading docks and the storage rooms, and into a world that existed in the shadows of her empire. The other cleaners barely acknowledged her. The early arriving employees looked through her like she was furniture. And by hour 3 of her first shift, Eleanor understood something that made her chest tight with anger. Her son wasn't the only one surrounded by fake people. Her entire company was built on a foundation of people who'd learned to perform kindness only when someone important was watching. The woman in the designer heels, Vanessa, the office queen bee, though Eleanor doesn't know her name yet, had been the first to show her true colors. She'd snapped her fingers, literally snapped them like summoning a dog, and pointed at a spot on the floor. "You missed something there. Do your job properly." Then she'd walked away, leaving Eleanor standing there with her mop, processing the casual cruelty of someone who'd probably never once considered that the person holding that mop might have feelings, might have a life, might have a story worth knowing. But it's been 3 weeks now, and Eleanor has seen enough to fill notebooks. She's watched the middle manager named Rachel step over her cleaning supplies without a word. She's heard the bathroom gossip where women tear each other apart between lipstick applications. She's witnessed the small cruelties that people inflict when they think there are no consequences, when they believe the person they're hurting is too far beneath them to matter. And she's documented everything, not with cameras or recordings, but with the careful attention of someone who understands that character isn't what you do when everyone's watching. It's what you do when you think nobody is. The dirty water is still dripping down her face when she sees movement in her peripheral vision. Someone's coming toward her, not past her, but toward her. And Eleanor's instinct after 3 weeks is to brace for another insult, another dismissal, another small humiliation in a building full of them. But then a voice cuts through the lingering laughter, young and clear and genuinely concerned. "Are you okay? Here, let me help you." The woman kneeling beside her is younger, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes and clothes that have been mended in places. She's pulling tissues from her purse, helping wipe the water from Eleanor's face with gentle hands, and there's no performance in it. No checking to see who's watching, just simple human decency offered without calculation. Eleanor feels something crack in her chest, because after 3 weeks of documenting cruelty, she'd almost forgotten that this was what she was looking for. Not the absence of evil, but the presence of good. "I'm Ava," the woman says, helping Eleanor to her feet. "Don't let them get to you. Some people here, they forget we're all human." She glances at the retreating figure of Vanessa and her friends, and there's something in her expression. Not anger, but disappointment. She's seen this movie before and knows how it ends. Then she does something that makes Eleanor's throat tight. She opens her purse, pulls out a container of food, and offers half of it. "It's just rice and vegetables, nothing fancy, but you should eat. Long shift ahead." Eleanor stares at the offered food, at this woman who clearly doesn't have much to spare but is sharing anyway, and manages to say, "You don't have to do that." But Ava just shakes her head, pressing the container into Eleanor's hands with a smile that reaches her eyes. "Someone helped my mother when she was a cleaner. Kindness isn't about having extra. It's about sharing what you do have. Besides," and here her smile turns a little sad, "we invisible people have to look out for each other, right?" The phrase hits Eleanor like a physical blow. Invisible people. That's what they are to everyone rushing past them right now, to everyone who stepped over the scene of cruelty without pausing, to everyone who witnessed casual humiliation and decided it wasn't their problem. And this woman, this Ava, with her mended clothes and her shared lunch and her tired eyes, she sees it. She understands it. And instead of using that understanding to justify cruelty or bitterness, she's chosen kindness. Eleanor watches Ava walk away, heading back to her cubicle in a section of the office that looks like where ambition goes to die, and she makes a note on the mental list she's been compiling. But then she hears it, the whisper that changes everything, that transforms her quiet observation into something far more urgent. 2 women at the water cooler, voices low but excited. "Did you hear? Daniel Cole is coming here in 2 weeks. His mother wants to find him a wife. Can you imagine? This could be our chance." And just like that, the clock starts ticking. Eleanor has 2 weeks to observe, to document, to understand who these people really are before they all start performing. 2 weeks before her son walks into this building, and every woman in it puts on the mask they think he wants to see. 2 weeks to find out if the kindness Ava just showed her is real or just another performance, because Eleanor has learned the hard way that even good deeds can be calculated moves. She picks up her mop, water still damp on her collar, and gets back to work. Because the test has just begun, and she's not the only one being tested anymore. The question isn't whether her son deserves love. It's whether anyone in this building is capable of offering the real thing. But here's what Eleanor doesn't know yet, what she can't see from her position on the floor with her mop and her invisible status. The game is about to get far more complicated than she imagined. Because when desperate people think salvation is walking through the door in 2 weeks, they don't just perform. They destroy anyone they see as competition. And the woman who just showed Eleanor kindness, the one with the shared lunch and the gentle hands and the tired smile, she's about to become the biggest target in the building. So tell me, if you knew your character was being tested, if you knew someone was watching to see who you really are when nobody important is looking, would you pass? Or would you be one of the people laughing as the water hits someone's face? The transformation happens overnight, and it's the kind of ugly that money can't hide. Within hours of that whisper at the water coolers spreading through the building like a virus, the entire 20th floor becomes a battlefield disguised as a corporate office. Vanessa shows up the next morning in a dress that costs more than most people's monthly rent, her makeup applied with the precision of someone going to war, and Eleanor watches from her corner with a mop as the performance begins. But here's the thing about performances. They require an audience. And right now, nobody knows the most important person in the audience is wearing a janitor's uniform and taking notes. The gossip mill runs overtime. Daniel Cole, 28, single, brilliant, and worth more money than most people can conceptualize, is coming to this building in exactly 13 days. And his mother, the legendary Eleanor Cole, the woman who turned her husband's modest real estate company into a multi-billion-dollar empire after his death, the woman who sits on boards and makes CEOs nervous. She's supposedly looking for a wife for her son. Not through normal channels, not through the society events and charity galas where these things usually happen, but here, in this mid-level marketing division, among the regular employees. It doesn't make sense to anyone, but that doesn't stop the frenzy. Because when opportunity knocks with that much money behind it, logic becomes optional. Eleanor continues her shifts, pushing her cleaning cart through corridors that now hum with a different kind of energy. Desperate energy. Hungry energy. The kind that makes people dangerous. And she watches Ava, the woman who shared her lunch, who helped her up, who called them both invisible people with such casual acceptance of a truth that should outrage anyone with a conscience. Ava hasn't changed. She arrives at the same time, wearing the same mended blazer, carrying the same modest lunch, offering the same quiet smile to Eleanor every morning. "Good morning, Mrs. Ellen. How are you today?" Eleanor matters. Like checking in on the cleaner is just something you do when you're human. But the others, they're changing in ways that make Eleanor's skin crawl. She watches Rachel, the middle manager who stepped over her cleaning supplies without acknowledgement, suddenly become everyone's best friend. Organizing charity drives, sending company-wide emails about workplace kindness initiatives. Eleanor finds her in the break room one afternoon, practicing sympathetic facial expressions in the reflection of the microwave. Actually practicing, like empathy is a skill you can fake if you just get the face right. And maybe it is, for people like Rachel. Maybe that's the truly terrifying part. Tiffany, Vanessa's loyal sidekick, starts leaving expensive pastries in the break room with little notes about sharing and community. The same woman who once told Eleanor to clean up crumbs like, "You're paid to do," is now playing Mother Teresa with a French bakery budget. Eleanor documents everything, but there's a knot forming in her stomach because she's starting to realize something her wealth has protected her from understanding. When people are desperate enough, when the prize is big enough, there's no limit to how fake they'll become. And if they can fake kindness this well, how is her son supposed to tell the difference? 5 days in, Eleanor finds Ava in the stairwell during lunch break, eating her rice and vegetables on the steps because her usual spot in the break room has been claimed by Vanessa's newly formed Wellness and Positivity Committee, which is really just an excuse for Vanessa to hold court and make sure everyone sees her being charitable. Eleanor sits down beside her, uninvited but not unwelcome, and Ava offers her half the food without even asking. Just splits it, hands it over, like it's the most natural thing in the world. "You don't have to keep feeding me," Eleanor says, testing her, always testing. "You don't have much yourself." But Ava just shrugs, and there's something in her eyes that looks like old pain, the kind that comes from understanding scarcity on a level most people in this building never will. My mother used to say that poverty isn't about not having enough. It's about not sharing what you do have. When you share, Somehow there's always enough. I know it sounds stupid, but she stops, shakes her head. Sorry, I'm rambling. Long day. Eleanor wants to tell her it's not stupid at all, that it's possibly the most profound thing anyone has said in this building in weeks, but she stays in character. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. Ava's smile goes sad around the edges. She was, past tense. She died last year. She was a cleaner too, actually. Worked herself to the bone to put me through college, to give my little brother a chance. I couldn't save her, though. Couldn't afford the treatment she needed. By the time I had insurance, it was too late. And just like that, Eleanor understands why Ava treats her with such dignity. Because she knows what it's like to watch your mother scrub floors, to see someone you love be invisible to people who should notice, to understand that the only difference between her and Eleanor's fake identity is timing and luck. But here's the question. Is Ava's kindness born from genuine character, or is it the sophisticated performance of someone who's learned to play the long game? Eleanor hates herself for wondering, but she has to. For Daniel's sake, she has to be sure. The answer comes in the most unexpected way. 8 days before Daniel's arrival, Ava gets promoted. The company lands a major client, and Ava's presentation, the one she worked on for months, staying late, perfecting every detail, is what sealed the deal. The announcement comes during the morning meeting, and Eleanor, cleaning the conference room windows, watches it unfold like a car crash in slow motion. The regional director announces that Ava Thompson is being elevated to team lead for the new account, and the room erupts in applause that sounds hollow, forced, like everyone's clapping with their hands but not their hearts. Except Vanessa. Vanessa isn't clapping at all. Her perfectly manicured hands are gripping the edge of the conference table so hard her knuckles are white, and the look on her face is pure venom. Eleanor has seen that look before, on the faces of rivals in boardrooms, on competitors who've just been outmaneuvered. It's the look of someone who's just decided that rules no longer apply, that winning matters more than how you win. And sweet Ava with her shared lunches and her gentle hands, she has no idea she just painted a target on her own back. It takes less than 24 hours for the attack to begin. Eleanor arrives for her evening shift to find the building still buzzing with unusual activity. People working late, unusual for this division. But then she hears why. There's been an accusation. Someone has reported to HR that Ava stole proprietary presentation materials from a shared drive, that her winning pitch was actually plagiarized from a colleague's previous work. The colleague? Vanessa. Of course it's Vanessa. And of course the evidence is perfectly arranged, timestamps altered, files mysteriously appearing in Ava's digital footprint that she swears she never accessed. Eleanor watches from her corner as security escorts Ava to HR, sees the confusion and fear on the younger woman's face, and feels rage building in her chest like a physical force. But she can't intervene. Not yet. Because if she reveals herself now, she'll never know how this plays out. Never see who Ava really is when everything's being taken away. And she needs to know. Even as it kills her to watch, she needs to know. The investigation takes 2 days. 2 days of Ava being suspended, sent home pending review, her reputation being shredded in whispered conversations throughout the office. Eleanor hears it all, the speculation, the gossip, the way people who smiled at Ava last week now speak about her like she's a criminal. I always knew there was something off about her. She was too nice, you know? Like she was hiding something. Probably been stealing ideas for years. It's amazing how quickly people rewrite history to justify cruelty. How easily they convince themselves that the victim deserved it. Vanessa is subtle about her victory. She doesn't gloat openly, but Eleanor sees it in the way she carries herself, the satisfied smile when she thinks nobody's watching. The way she's already positioning herself as the obvious choice for Daniel when he arrives in 6 days. 5 days, 4 days. Eleanor tracks the countdown like a bomb timer because that's what it feels like. Explosive potential wrapped in ticking seconds. And she's not sure who's going to be caught in the blast radius. On the third day of Ava's suspension, Eleanor makes a decision that goes against every instinct she has. She leaves work early, something she's never done in her 3 weeks undercover, and she goes to Ava's apartment. It's not hard to find. The address is in the HR files she's not supposed to have access to, but does because, well, she owns the company. The building is in a neighborhood that makes Eleanor's security detail nervous, the kind of place where gentrification hasn't reached yet, where people still look out for each other because they have to. Ava's apartment is on the 3rd floor, no elevator, and Eleanor climbs the stairs with her cleaning supplies because she's committed to this cover even when nobody's watching. Maybe, especially when nobody's watching. She knocks. No answer. Knocks again. Finally, the door opens, and Ava stands there looking like she hasn't slept in days, her eyes red-rimmed, her hair pulled back messily, and for a moment, she just stares at Eleanor like she's seeing a ghost. "Mrs. Ellen? What are you? How did you?" She stops, shakes her head. "I'm sorry, I'm not making sense. Do you want to come in?" The apartment is tiny, maybe 500 square feet, but it's clean and organized with the care of someone who respects what little they have. There are photos on the walls. Ava with an older woman who must be her mother, Ava with a teenage boy who's probably her brother, family photos that speak of love, even in the absence of money. Eleanor sees medical bills stacked on the small dining table, textbooks for someone studying engineering. The brother, probably, and a laptop open to job search websites. Ava follows her gaze and laughs, but it's not a happy sound. "I'm already looking. Even if they clear me, which they probably won't, I can't stay there. Not after everyone." She trails off, wraps her arms around herself like she's cold, even though the apartment is warm. "Why did you let me in?" Eleanor asks. "Because it's not a smart move, letting a near stranger into your home when you're vulnerable." But Ava just gives her that sad smile again. "Because you were kind to me. Because when nobody else at that company treated me like a person, you did. Because my mother always said that God sends angels in disguise, and maybe you're mine." The faith in those words, the genuine belief that the universe sends help when you need it, it breaks something in Eleanor. Because Ava has no idea that her angel is actually a billionaire in disguise, that the test she thinks she failed is actually a test she's passing with colors nobody else in that building could match. Eleanor sits down at the small table, uninvited but not unwelcome, and asks the question she already knows the answer to. "Did you steal those materials?" Ava's laugh is bitter this time. "No, I worked on that presentation for 3 months. Every insight, every strategy, every word, it was mine. But the evidence says otherwise, and evidence beats truth in a corporate investigation. That's just how it works when you're nobody. When you're nobody." There it is again. That acceptance of invisibility, of not mattering, and Eleanor realizes that this is what her son has been fighting against his whole life. The feeling that people only see his money, his status, his usefulness. He feels invisible too, just in a different way. "What will you do?" Eleanor asks, and Ava gestures at the laptop, at the job listings, at the bills that keep coming even when the paycheck stops. "What I always do. Survive, find another job, keep my brother in school, keep moving forward. My mother used to say that character isn't built in the good times. It's built when everything's falling apart and you choose to be kind anyway. So that's what I'll do. I'll survive this and I'll still be kind, because that's the only thing they can't take from me." She stands up, moves to the small kitchen, and starts making tea. She's hosting royalty instead of a janitor in her moment of crisis. "Can I tell you something, Mrs. Ellen? Something I've never told anyone at that place?" Eleanor nods, throat tight. "When my mother was dying, when I was spending every spare moment at the hospital, when I was so exhausted I could barely think, there was this other cleaner, Mariah. She was older, maybe your age, and she used to bring me food. She'd sit with my mother when I had to work. She'd slip money into my purse when she thought I wasn't looking, and I never even knew her last name. But she saved me. She kept me standing when I wanted to fall." Ava pours the tea. hands a cup to Eleanor with steady hands despite everything. So when I see someone struggling, someone being treated like they don't matter, I think about Maria. And I think maybe I can be that for someone else. Maybe that's the whole point. And in that moment, Eleanor Cole knows with absolute certainty that she's found what she was looking for. Not a daughter-in-law, not yet. That's for Daniel to decide. But something rarer and more valuable. She's found proof that goodness exists, that kindness survives even when it's punished, that character can be real in a world full of performance. But she still can't reveal herself. Not yet. Because the final test is coming, and it's going to be brutal. She drinks her tea, lets Ava talk about her mother and her brother and her dreams that feel impossible now. And when she leaves, she presses a $20 bill into Ava's hand. For the tea, she says, even though they both know it's a lie. Ava tries to refuse, but Eleanor insists. Let me be your Maria, just this once. And Ava, eyes filling with tears, accepts it with a grace that speaks of someone who knows how to receive help without losing dignity. Eleanor leaves that apartment building knowing that tomorrow changes everything. Tomorrow is the day Daniel arrives. Tomorrow is the day she reveals the truth. Tomorrow, everyone in that building is going to learn that the cleaner they've been stepping over, the invisible woman they've been dismissing, the person they thought had no power, she's been holding all the cards the entire time. But here's what terrifies her. What if exposing the truth destroys the very thing she's trying to protect? What Ava, when she learns about the deception, feels betrayed instead of vindicated? What if the revelation that she was being tested, being watched, being evaluated like a specimen under a microscope? What if that breaks the genuine kindness Eleanor has witnessed? Because here's the cruel irony of testing someone's character. The moment they know they're being tested, the test becomes invalid. Eleanor returns to her penthouse that night, removes the cleaning uniform, stands under a shower hot enough to hurt, and questions everything. Has she been protecting her son, or has she been playing God with people's lives? Has she been searching for truth, or has she been manipulating circumstances to prove what she wanted to believe? And most terrifying of all, has she become the very thing she was trying to avoid? Someone who treats people as means to an end instead of as human beings with their own dignity and worth. Her phone buzzes. It's Daniel. Mother, I'm landing tomorrow at 9. Are you sure about this? This whole thing feels... He doesn't finish, but she knows what he means. Crazy, manipulative, wrong. But she's committed now, and tomorrow, one way or another, everyone's masks come off. She texts back, trust me, tomorrow you'll understand everything. But as she lies in her California king bed in her penthouse apartment, staring at the ceiling, Eleanor Cole realizes something that makes her chest tight with anxiety. She's not just revealing the truth tomorrow. She's detonating a bomb in the lives of everyone in that building, and she has no idea who's going to be left standing when the dust clears. So here's the real question. When the powerful test the powerless, who's really being judged? The elevator doors open at exactly 9:37 in the morning, and the entire 20th floor holds its breath. But here's what nobody expects. The woman who steps out isn't wearing Chanel or diamonds or any of the armor of wealth they've been imagining for weeks. She's wearing the same worn cleaning uniform she's had on every single day for the past 3 weeks, the same scuffed shoes, the same janitor's badge that reads Ellen. The crowd gathered in the main lobby doesn't know what to do with this information. Vanessa, who positioned herself front and center in a dress that cost $3,000, her makeup applied by a professional at 6 this morning, actually takes a step back in confusion. Because this isn't how the script is supposed to go. The billionaire's mother is supposed to arrive in power, in glory, in obvious wealth, not pushing a cleaning cart with security guards in black suits flanking her like she's the president of janitorial services. Eleanor Cole lets the moment stretch, watches the confusion ripple through the assembled crowd like a stone thrown into still water. And then she removes her cleaning cap. The recognition doesn't come all at once. It spreads slowly, person by person, face by face, as people pull out their phones and compare the woman standing before them to the pictures of Eleanor Cole they've been studying for weeks. The posture is the same, the bone structure is the same, but the context is so wrong that their brains refuse to process it. Until Rachel, the middle manager who practiced empathy, faces in the microwave reflection, makes a sound like all the air has been punched from her lungs and stammers out 2 words that change everything. Oh God. The silence that follows is the kind that comes before earthquakes, before tsunamis, before the world as you know it cracks open and reveals something terrible underneath. Eleanor walks through that silence. She owns it. Because she owns everything, including the very air these people are breathing in her building, and she stops directly in front of Vanessa, the woman who threw dirty mop water in her face, the woman who laughed, the woman who called her forgettable. Vanessa's perfect makeup can't hide the terror that's draining all color from her face, can't disguise the way her hands are shaking, can't stop the small whimper that escapes when Eleanor speaks. "You poured water on me," Eleanor says, her voice carrying in the absolute silence, every word landing like a judge's gavel. "You laughed at my shoes. You called me forgettable. Do you remember that?" Vanessa tries to speak, her mouth opening and closing, words forming and dying before they reach sound. And finally, she manages a broken, "Mrs. Cole, I didn't know. I would never, please, I—" But Eleanor raises one hand, and Vanessa stops like she's been turned to stone. "Exactly," Eleanor says, and there's something in her voice that makes even the people in the back of the crowd flinch. "You didn't know. You would never have treated me that way if you'd known who I was. That's precisely the problem. That's exactly why I'm here." She turns, addresses the entire floor, her voice shifting from judgment to teaching, from anger to something sadder and more profound. "I came here 3 weeks ago in disguise. Not to trick you, not to play games, but to see something that wealth has a way of hiding. I wanted to see your character, not your performance, not the version of yourselves you present when someone important is watching, but who you are when you think nobody is keeping score." The crowd shifts uncomfortably, and Eleanor can see people mentally reviewing the past 3 weeks, cataloging every interaction with the cleaner, every dismissal, every casual cruelty they thought was invisible. "I watched you become monsters the moment you thought someone was beneath you. I watched you step over me, ignore me, treat me like furniture in your expensive hallways. And I watched one person, just one, remain kind even when it cost her everything." She doesn't say Ava's name yet, but people are already looking around, already trying to figure out who passed the test they didn't know they were taking. "You want to know why I'm telling you this? Why I'm standing here in this uniform instead of the Chanel suit you expected? Because I want you to understand something that money has a way of making people forget. Character isn't what you do when everyone's watching. It's what you do when you think your actions don't matter, when you think the person you're hurting has no power, when you believe there are no consequences. That's when your true self shows." Tiffany, Vanessa's sidekick, actually starts crying, mascara running down her face in black rivers. Rachel looks like she's going to be sick, and Eleanor feels no satisfaction in their suffering, only a deep sadness that this lesson had to be taught this way. "Vanessa Martinez, Tiffany Chen, Rachel Morrison, you're fired, not because you were ambitious, not because you wanted to meet my son, but because you were cruel, because you treated another human being as less than human. And if you can do that to someone you think is powerless, you'll do worse to anyone who can't protect themselves." Security moves forward, and the 3 women don't even protest, just stumble toward the elevator like refugees from their own lives. But Eleanor isn't done. "The rest of you, you who stood by and watched, you who laughed, you who said nothing when you saw cruelty, you get to keep your jobs, but I want you to think about what that says about you. I want you to remember that silence in the face of cruelty is its own form of cruelty. And I want you to ask yourselves, if you knew your character was being tested every single day, would you be proud of who you've been?" But here's what everyone's wondering, the question that's burning in every mind in that room. Where is Ava? As if summoned by the thought, the elevator opens again, and Ava Thompson steps out, called in by Eleanor's assistant with no explanation, just an urgent request to come immediately. She's wearing the same mended blazer, the same tired expression that comes from job hunting and bill paying and carrying the weight of other people's survival. And when she sees the scene before her, she stops dead. Her eyes find Eleanor, still in the cleaning uniform, surrounded by security, and confusion wars with concern on her face. "Mrs. Ellen? What's happening? Are you okay?" And that question, that immediate concern for someone she thinks is just a fellow cleaner, that instinct to check on another person's well-being even when her own life is falling apart, that's when Eleanor feels tears prick her eyes for the first time in this entire 3-week ordeal. "I'm more than okay, Ava. Thanks to you." She walks toward the younger woman, closes the distance between billionaire and employee, between tester and tested, and removes the distance between deception and truth. "My real name is Eleanor Cole, and I've been watching you for 3 weeks." The betrayal that flashes across Ava's face is like a knife to Eleanor's chest. "You were testing me. All of it was fake." But Eleanor shakes her head, reaches out and takes Ava's hands in hers. "No, your kindness was real. Your character was real. Everything you did, every choice you made, that was real. I was just making sure I could see it. Because my son needs someone real in his life, and I needed to know you existed." She turns to address the crowd one final time. "Ava Thompson is promoted to CEO of this division, not because she was kind to me specifically, but because she's kind, period. Because she treats everyone with dignity regardless of their status. Because leaders aren't defined by how they treat those above them. They're defined by how they treat those who can do nothing for them." The crowd erupts in applause, but it's different from the hollow clapping when Ava was made team lead. This is genuine, perhaps born from relief that they're not the ones being judged, perhaps from actual respect. Eleanor doesn't care which. She turns back to Ava, whose tears are flowing freely now. "There's someone I want you to meet, someone who's been watching you too, but through security footage because I wouldn't let him interfere." She gestures, and Daniel Cole steps out from the conference room where he's been observing everything, and the resemblance to his mother is unmistakable in the intelligence in his eyes, the kindness in his smile. He walks directly to Ava, ignores everyone else in the room, and extends his hand. "My mother says you gave her your last $20 after you'd been suspended. After everything had been taken from you. She asked you why, and you said it felt right." He's smiling now, really smiling, in a way Eleanor hasn't seen in years. "I'd like to take you to dinner. Not as a CEO, not as a Cole, just as Daniel. If you're willing to give a guy who's spent his whole life surrounded by fake people a chance to be around someone real." Ava looks between mother and son, at the crowd watching with bated breath, at the life she thought she'd lost now being handed back with interest, and she starts laughing through her tears. "Only if you're willing to give a girl who shares her lunch a chance to teach you that kindness isn't a business strategy. It's just who you are when nobody's keeping score." And in that moment, Eleanor knows she's done more than find a potential wife for her son. She's proven something the world desperately needs to remember. 6 months later, Ava has transformed the division into the most profitable and highest-rated employee satisfaction branch in the entire coal industry's empire. She and Daniel are taking it slow, building something real, and Eleanor watches from her office with satisfaction. But the real victory isn't the love story or the business success. It's the shift in culture. The way treating people with dignity has become the standard instead of the exception. The way kindness is no longer seen as weakness, but as strength. So here's my question for you. If your character was being tested right now, if someone was watching how you treat the people who can do nothing for you, would you pass? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this story made you think differently about kindness, about character, about how you treat the invisible people in your own life, hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world doesn't change through grand gestures. It changes through small acts of kindness repeated by ordinary people who choose to be extraordinary. What will you choose?